Cache-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to episode 196 of the GeoGearHeads. I'm the bad cop along with my co-host Daryl W4, and tonight we're going to chat with Craig Farrell of the West Bend Chamber of Commerce about building community partnerships. You probably know West Bend as the granddaddy of geocaching towns. But before we jump into that, Daryl, can you believe we're just 4 episodes away from show number 200? It seems like we just did show 100.
Well, we kind of did just do show 100 less than 2 years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah. But yeah, I can definitely see 200 because I'm booking shows well after that already. It's a kind of this rolling thing that, I just keep booking more and more shows.
Yeah, that's right. You just keep rolling along like those tumbleweed. Wait, that's a different town.
Yeah, different town altogether. But we did ask a question for all of our folks last week to answer on this week's topic. And, of course, we have Craig Farrell, Executive Director of the West Bend Chamber of Commerce, and kind of I guess you'd call him the godfather of the Cache Bash. But we didn't ask anything about the Cache Bash. What we asked was, according to the visitwestbend.com site, what is the name of the Geo Tour? And it's 5 words. So, Craig, what is that name?
What is that name? The West Bend Area Geo Tour.
Well, I have West Bend 4 Seasons.
Oh, you're right. You caught me off guard, and yes, that's exactly what it is. And, of course, we're good all 4 seasons as long as people are willing to put up a little snow.
Yeah, well, I've got to think that this is going to be like the perfect time to hit that because it's nice and cool. You have those nice fall colors starting.
We do. Right now, temperature outside is about 58 degrees. The leaves are just starting to change. The next few weeks are going to be perfect for geocaching. Not too hot, the bugs go away, and the colors are going to be spectacular.
I'd love to get out there myself, but we did pick one of those people through a random drawing to receive a 100-day membership to project-gc.com, and Craig will give you the honor of announcing who won that prize.
Well, I am happy to report that the Krantz Family 5 are the winners of this, and congratulations to them.
And I will be getting that code out to you shortly, though I have not emailed that out quite yet. Now, let's talk a little bit about West Bend and its position in geocaching, which was done entirely with cooperation of the community, of course. So give us a little bit of info about West Bend and the caching in there.
Well, I had read about geocaching long before I actually had come to start work at the Chamber. I had retired, kind of wondering what I was going to do with the rest of my life, and had an opportunity to come in and run the West Bend Area Chamber. I had been there about 2 months, and a young woman came into my office one day, and she said, well, I'd like to hide a cache under the front steps of your building, if that's okay. Do you know anything about geocaching? And I said, actually, I do know about geocaching, and yes, you can hide a cache under our front steps. And come on in, I have this crazy idea I'd like to talk to you about. And really, that was where it started. I kind of laid out what I thought might be kind of a fun event. She loved the idea, and she was able to pull together a number of geocachers that are part of our community. The discovery I made, though, is that we already had about 500 or 600 caches that were hidden in and around West Bend, and that some of the folks that have been part of my committee really from the very beginning have found 35,000, 40,000 caches all by themselves. So, this was a very seasoned and experienced group of geocachers. So it was really serendipity that it all kind of came together. They loved the idea. I run the city's tourism fund, so we went to the city and I explained what I wanted to do. they also were interested in it and said, go ahead and do it. That was now 8 geocache bashes ago, and we're still going strong.
Excellent. And I've only been to one of those. Want to go to more, but haven't been able to. But on the releases for the Cache Bash, and I think I've seen a couple for the GeoTour, you're kind of touting now that you have 1,400 caches within a 10-mile radius of the city.
Daryl, actually, it's now over 1,500.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
and I loved going to the Cache Bash, I want to say 2 years ago. And I of course, went with Scott and Walt, and we went and did a nice little power trail. And I want to say 100 caches in just under an hour or just over an hour. I can't really remember at this point. Just on the little back roads outside of town, it was like, this is amazing. And it was just one of many. And then you go into town, and you had these amazing caches that I can't imagine seeing anywhere else, because you had your stop sign cache, but instead of being, tucked up behind the sign, it's just right out there. It's this giant camel pill bottle, essentially, just attached by magnets in front of the police station.
Yeah. We have a little bit of everything, and what it took a little while to explain to the community was what geocaching was about. But since we've had a few of these cache bashes, they've really embraced it, and you can now wander into our community, and particularly on Cache Bash weekend, every electronic sign from the McDonald's to the Jumbos to you name it will be saying welcome geocachers, and every window of every store has a sign welcoming the geocachers. It's from what I've been told by some of the folks that have come to our community, it's something truly amazing for them, because they're not always treated as first-class citizens, and we love them.
Awesome. It really is. Well, and let's talk about the West Bend Four Seasons Geo Tour, because that's what we kicked it off with, and that's probably really the best way for a community that wants to look into this kind of partnership to get started, because it doesn't take the level of manpower and probably the cash as well that it would to put on that major event, and it has a much longer lasting effect because it's out there for as long as you care to keep the Geo Tour up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, we did it the reverse way, because we started with the Cache Bash, and then we got into the Geo Tour. I really think that the Geo Tour is a great way for any community to get into geocaching. It doesn't require the amount of effort that a Cache Bash or an event like that really demands. And in our case, what we did was we wanted to bring people in and not only have a fun geo tour, but also provide them with information about the history of our community. So as folks are wandering around, there's a cache located right here at the Chamber, and our building was built back in 1865. So when people are looking for the cache there, they're also going to get some history of exactly what this building, who built it, why it was built, and so on. And it's like that throughout all 20 of our caches. And that's something that any community can pick up. I think all your geocaching friends have to do is go into their Chamber of Commerce and kind of explain what it's all about, and that's a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. And you had done something a little different with this one than most of the other Geo Tours I found. And, of course, you have that GeoCoin at the end, but the passport that you use to collect the points, you don't need to find just caches, but you also have to do some other stuff. So you need 25 points to get that GeoCoin, and you only get 1 point per cache, but you also get 2 points per meal at one of, I think it was 7 restaurants, and
Correct.
3 points per a night's lodging at 4 of the hotels. So you don't necessarily have to go and just do the Geo Tour, because you can, if you're going to make a long weekend out of it, you're going to have, we'll say, at least 10 points just in the lodging. So you only have to find 15 of those caches.
Right. It's surprising. Most people do find all 20 of them. The good thing about the passport is it helps us not only to see that what caches they found, but it also allows me then to go back to our city and say, hey, look, this is what the program has actually produced. So in marketing, it's very hard to have hard figures, tangible things that you can point to. And when you have to go in front of a city council every year and get your budget approved, there are a lot of questions asked. With this, not only do we know where people have come from, but we know how much money they've spent because, we know how many restaurant meals they've had, if they've spent a night or 2 nights in a hotel. All of that's right there. The team gets their actual passport back, but we make a copy of it and we keep it as a hard copy. So that's something that your listeners should be thinking about, is how do you qualify and quantify the event that you want to put on, or in this case the Geo Tour, because it makes it much easier then to get buy-in.
Right, right. And you can always look at the logs to find out how many people are finding it, but that doesn't tell you what the impact is on the hotels and restaurants. And by having that passport set up the way that you do, you get that information. So what have you found approximately, because we know people are probably still doing it now,
right,
for your hotels and restaurants?
Well, we've had over 1,200 restaurant meals, and that's only where they've used stickers. And obviously, they've had additional meals, but after they hit their 25 points, there really isn't any reason to put any additional stickers in there. Well over, I think, close to 300 hotel room nights that have been generated by that. And when you start looking at the money that is involved and what the geocaches are bringing into the community, it makes it very easy to go back to the city and to the community and say, look, here's what's actually happened with this. Because it's all 4 seasons, people, we find at Christmas time, people were coming out over the Christmas holidays, and we probably had 15 or 20 teams that came in between Christmas and New Year's, snow and all, but they were there and doing their thing. And some of those caches were going to be very difficult to find, so having that extra night's lodging picked up the points. I still have about 600 geocoins, so I'm looking for at least another 600 teams to show up in the next year or so.
Well, and you've only had this one out for about a year now, am I correct?
Yeah, it actually started a year ago last July, so it's been now about, 14, 15 months. But the people who have taken it love it. We only have 20 caches hidden, but we've had 384 favorites, which is pretty amazing for that limited number of caches. And it says a lot about Farm Girl, Annie Wyszynski, who has placed all of these. I mean, she put together not just really wonderful caches, but in addition to that, she was the one that gathered all the information about each of the locations as to why it was special. And so a family going in there, not only are they just finding a cache, but the family is sharing information about the fabric, really, of our community.
Nice. Craig, do you see this Geo Tour continuing after you run out of coins? Will you mint a second generation of coin, or will you change the tour a little bit?
Chris, we will definitely mint more coins. I consider this really a good investment in tourism. And so if and when we run out, we'll mint more, and maybe they'll be a little bit different. We've had we have one of our museums unfortunately closed down, so we're going to have to find a replacement for it. But there's always new things to see and do, and I'm sure Annie will come up with some interesting new concepts. There's nothing all that difficult, but they are challenging, and they're more than that, they're fun.
And that's important. That really is important. Are your hotels and restaurants giving good feedback? I mean, are they saying thank you so much for doing this? We're really feeling the impact?
Oh yes. In fact, their enthusiasm about this has made my job much easier when I have to go to the city council and submit the budget. The last time I was at city council, last October, a couple of the council members were actually so excited because their constituents are telling them how great this is and how much money it's bringing into the community. And these tourism dollars are all found money. This is not money that normally would come into our community. So whatever we get that way, it may go into the hotel, but it ends up going to the gas station. It goes to all these different places, and it passes through 3 or 4 or 5 different hands just within the community. So there's a tremendous value to that. And I think that's maybe is what's been missing with geocaching, is that there hasn't been really a connect the dots between what geocaching is about and how it can benefit a community.
Well, and one of the things we've heard from more than one source now is once these kind of partnerships get started, where the chamber or it's sometimes been a local business that pushes it, particularly like a hotel or a resort nearby, they start putting the caches like in front of a business or in the parking lot, and then the other businesses get very angry when they find out that they can't have a cache in their parking lot because it's too close under the geocaching.com guidelines.
Yeah, and that's been a problem for us. And as I mentioned, being over 1,500 caches right now, it's very challenging because we're getting to the point where we're saturated, and so I'm having to go back to some of my committee members and have them retire caches, which may be in a strategic position, and it blocks off the potential of 3 or 4 other caches that could be placed in that area. So we're having to be a little more diligent in how and where we place them, because that can easily happen. And of course, we want to have a number of caches within the downtown area, but we also, we are in what is called the Kettle Moraine area, and it's all rolling hills, and it was all glacier cut. So we also want the caches to be able to go out and actually get out into the country where they're pretty much out all by themselves, and that really is special. I think that also can make a huge difference in how geocachers look at caching, because it's not just city caches, but it can be out in really in some fairly rugged terrain.
Yeah, it's not applying to necessarily the GeoTour, but for those extra caches that people can pick up. Like, I ran out with the guys from Chicago Geocacher podcast and found 100 caches just in an hour break, essentially, from the mega event.
Right. And that's it. I mean, we have such a wide range of them. We have, for example, and seniors, as you know, have really embraced geocaching, but many of them are uncomfortable maybe going out in the woods. They would feel much more comfortable being in a more of an urban environment, or they need something that's ADA compliant. And so we look at those aspects of it as well.
Yeah, and going back to the duration of the GeoTour, you can certainly keep these going for a long time, but what I've heard from a couple of people who have played with it with their communities is they have actually tried doing a 1 or 2 year tour, and then they'll come out with another one after that. And one of them was even talking about, because of the success that they've had with theirs, they plan on staggering it, so they'll have one GeoTour 1 year, the next year they'll launch another one, then the following year they retire that first one, and then they're going to create a third one so that you always have 2 tours running.
Sure.
To ensure that people keep coming back year after year.
Right. Given our location, I mean, our proximity to Milwaukee, and really we're just about 90 miles north of Chicago, we feel that there are an awful lot of people yet to take advantage of the GeoTour. So when we start to see a saturation, we're going to do exactly the same thing. But given the fact that Madison is nearby, you've got the Twin Cities, you've got Green Bay, there are a lot of large communities with many geocachers, and what we've been noticing is that we're starting to get some impact in those cities, which is exciting, because we don't just want folks from around the area to take advantage of the GeoTour, but actually to bring people in from a greater distance. We had a couple just emailed us that they just took the Geo Tour, and they came from Norway. They had come for our Cash Bash and then just stayed on and did the Geo Tour, and were saying, they couldn't believe how well they were treated in West Bend, that people just loved them. So that's exactly what we work so hard to do, and it's nice to get that kind of feedback.
Wow,
Absolutely.
that is good, especially the international guests.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Craig, we've alluded a couple of times to the Cash Bash. Would you give us a high-level overview of exactly what this is?
Well, the Cash Bash, as I said, started 8 years ago. The idea is that we hide 66 caches every year specifically for the Cash Bash. The release time is the morning of our event, so there's no way of being able to find them ahead of that. People will check in at Regner Park, and I think, Chris, we're about the only mega event that has been in the same place year after year for the past 8 years. So, that's our stomping grounds, but it also gives us the ability to more efficiently handle this. The chamber really handles all of the administration, because that's what we do. We plan parties, we plan all kinds of events, so we're used to pushing paper and doing that aspect of it. But we wouldn't even dream of trying to hide the caches. I mean, that's why we have this select group of geocachers on our committee, and every year they're trying to top themselves as to what and how they do it. So people will check in. We give them a backpack, and Daryl, I'm sure you got your backpack when you checked in a couple years ago. It's a free backpack, and it's got the logo of the year, whatever our theme is for that year. They get in the backpack a program that has the game card and has all of this information. So folks get it. They decide what the route of their adventure is going to be. They go off, and as they find a geocache and they open it up, they'll find a little rubber stamp in there, and that corresponds with the number of that particular cache. So it would be, for example, this year it'd be 15 because it's the 15th year, and it'll be, say, 33. So it'll be 1533. They look on their game card, they find that, and they take the stamp, put the stamp right on the game card, and then they continue on. For when they come back after the 2 days, they'll come back on a Saturday afternoon, usually around 3:30. We will check them back in, and we will look at their game cards, and we give them raffle tickets for every 10 stamps that they have on their game card. And so then those tickets are good for all kinds of prizes, from GPS units to pretty much you name it. And we give that out then on a Saturday evening, which would be the climax of the 2 days. It's a lot of fun. We have a number of our committee members that do pre-events, like they have the pre-bash party, and that'll all be at one of the restaurants, and they can get a little information. Earth Angel, Tammy is I think they found around 40,000 caches, so she's sort of a superstar in the field, and she'll give them some tips on how to go about planning their route of travel so that they can get as many caches as possible. Now, we see geocachers that will come and they'll get maybe 10 or 15 over the 2 days. They've got kids, the kids are tired, so we have one of the things that's in the backpack is they get a swim pass for the swim pond and the splash pad we have. So they don't have to just be out caching the whole time. They can take it easy. They can come back in and come and go as they please. What she will do, though, is kind of give them some advice as to what's the best route in order to avoid a lot of the other caches. Fact is, when you're running an event and you have 15 or 1,600 people, 800 teams, they start to kind of bump into each other. And what we've been forced to do is to spread out these caches even over a much greater period than area, I should say, than what we would like to do, simply in order to keep the traffic to a minimum. We want everybody to have as good and special a event as possible. And if they're standing in line waiting for for someone to give them the stamp, that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. I've been to too many of those events where the log just gets passed from person to person, and you never actually saw where it was hidden.
Right, and that's not the fun of it.
Right.
We have some folks actually that come in. We had a couple from Germany, and they just came in and they just did the normal caches. Waited until the weekend was over, and then they just stayed on and they did the other caches afterwards when all the traffic was gone. But it is, there's a lot of logistics into trying to keep this as pure as we possibly can and make it as much fun, because if it's not fun, folks won't come back.
Well, and these are good caches. They've got a lot of time and effort put into them. They're not just like your Tupperware in the woods kind of stuff.
Right.
So this is the kind of caches that even if you're not finding them during the actual event, you're going to want to go back and find them all later.
Yeah, that's right. And some of these caches, both the terrain and the difficulty are quite hard. I have to tell you that there are some real gamers out there, though, and they will, in a period of 2 days, will find all 66, and they'll be back by 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and it's like, whoa! I don't know how in heaven's name they do that, but they run between caches, and they really understand how it works. But there are others that'll get 10 or 12, and they're just as happy, and maybe more so, because they've had a great time, and that's what they came for.
Exactly. Well, and touching back to the GeoCoin, or to the GeoTrail rather,
yeah.
This is one of the reasons that this works so well for you. Is you have the event that brings people back year after year. They can hit some of those caches on the GeoTrail or GeoTour rather, if they have the time. And then maybe they come back later for it. Maybe they just wait till next year and pick them up when they're in town again. But having the two events, brings people back year after year and gives them something to do in the off season.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it was very excited when Groundspeak came up with the GeoTour, because it basically kind of closed the gap between our event. Our event is great, and people would certainly come in to find the caches throughout the rest of the year, but this gives them a specific reason to come with a coin at the end of the rainbow if they complete it. So it adds more to the luster of what we've tried to do, and I think that we've trademarked that we are the geocaching capital of the Midwest. So we have an image to uphold, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that if caches come to town, that they're going to go away happy.
Well, we did have a comment in the live Q&A. Chris, do you want to read that from Carrot Killer?
Certainly. This comes in from Carrot Killer. This is, I just did a coin trail in Jacksonville, Florida, known as the Jax Park Trail. They archive caches in the park each year and place new ones for a fresh trail. Pretty odd system, if you ask me. In case you're interested, the GC code is GC60AHX. But
now, my first thought with that is, if it's in a park, a lot of parks don't want the caches in the same spot year after year because it encourages a geotrail and some damage to the environment.
Well, and it creates, by removing the caches, placing new ones, it creates that replayability. I want to go back there and find the new caches.
Exactly. And West Bend has the Cache Bash with 66 new caches every year anyway, so if in that case you don't necessarily need that. But if you're just relying on the GeoTour, and in this case it's just a GeoTrail, then maybe you do need to do that every year or every other year. It's something that you probably have to work with the community to find out what's that good balance between cost. And if you're not working with Groundspeak on the GeoTours, you don't have that additional expense, and it might be more viable to turn that over every year because it's just getting new coins and sending out the new caches and that kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. And, a lot of people are going to go do this because there's a shiny coin at the end of it.
Absolutely, and it's that reward, I think, that gets most of the cachers doing it. It's certainly of interest for everyone to do it, but if you had a choice of going to one community where you don't get a coin and another community that does, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Coin beats no coin.
Or in the case of the cash bash, actual, like, cash valuable prizes.
See, that's a different type of coin. And Craig, that's one thing we didn't actually talk about. Now, it's the North Bend $1,000 cash bash, but there's more than one type of cash involved here, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. And actually, it's West Bend, not North Bend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading West Bend. North Bend is a town near me, and it sticks in my head. I apologize.
Freudian slip. That's okay. We actually, as you were asking, we do have all sorts of different caches at different levels. We always will have at least 6 that will be ADA compliant, and because we had a number of folks that have mobility issues, and that was one of the things we found after about the second year is like at that time we weren't considering that, and it was something we had to add in order to make it fun for everyone. We have a number of caches that I would say are in the 1 to 1.5 difficulty. And we do have, I think, about 5 that will fall into a much higher terrain and a much higher difficulty. There'd be 3.5s or 4s. So it's not for everybody, and we don't expect everyone to be able to do that. But we know roughly 16% of the people that attend our event have found over 5,000 caches. So we know that if we want to continue to keep them coming back, it can't just all be simple, one-level caches, or they're going to get bored and do other things. So we've tried that. I mean, we have caches where you either have to wait out or take a boat out to them. There are caches that we had one that you had to go out on the diving board in the middle of the swim pond that we have in order to be able to get it. And of course, before you could do that, you had to be checked out by the lifeguard just to make sure that you could swim sufficiently to do it. So there are all sorts of different caches, and that's part of I think of the fun of it for the folks who are on my committee. Is they're always trying to think up a new way of doing it. We've been talking about themes for next year. And right now, and today really was the last day for voting on it. We have it on our website. I think we're going to have a Western theme for Cash Bash number 9, so that all of the committee are already trying to figure out what does that mean. How are they going to do it? Is this going to be bank robbers, or is it cowboys and Indians, or whatever? So they will really get going on this immediately and start scoping out places to hide it. But one thing I found is that certainly the geocaches on our committee are a very creative lot. Sometimes I have to kind of reel them in because some of these things are a little bit too wild and crazy and maybe not easy to actually execute. They're good on paper, but how do you make them really works, particularly if you're going to have 1,500-1,600 people all out and about. But when it comes to creativity, they are amazing. But as I said, sometimes it's kind of like trying to harness butterflies. They're all kind of going off in different directions.
I say it's like trying to herd cats, but it's the same idea. Now, the Cash Bash also has a monetary component with it, right? There are prizes.
Yes.
Cash prizes available.
Yes, there are, and we provide that. We provide a raffle ticket to every single person who comes to the event. Kids, adults, everybody gets a raffle ticket, and we give out $1,000. First prize is $500. We give out a $250 prize, 2 $100 prizes, and a $50 prize. And we've been doing that ever since the beginning. And it's kind of, it's really the frosting on the cake. If you can go away from the event with maybe a little money in your pocket. I had the first year. I have to laugh, and this is one of my great and favorite stories. We were handing out the money. I'd pulled a raffle ticket for the $250 winner, and there was a lady in the crowd, and she said, "Oh, I'm glad I didn't win that because I want the $500." I swear to God, I pulled her ticket, the next ticket, and she won the $500. She was from Florida, and she had come up to the event, and of course she thought that was just the greatest thing in the world. And I guess it's a case if you don't ask for it, you won't win it.
Wow.
But
So will you pull my ticket next year?
sure,
Okay, good.
you,
Daryl, let's go.
you do have to come though.
Oh. Well, there's always a catch, isn't there?
Yeah, well, you're going to want to come, particularly with all the new things that'll be coming out. That's the fun of it every year is people keep coming back year after year because it's never the same.
Exactly.
Well, of course, we're talking about the involvement with the community, and one of the big things is to talk about what the impact is on the businesses, which we've already talked about a little bit with the Geo Tour. But this, you have a much better track record. It's been running longer, and you have a better handle on it. So what is the economic value of a single year of the Cash Bash?
Daryl, we have been really monitoring this every year, and last year and again this year, we've been in the $400,000 to $450,000 that comes in specifically for Cash Bash weekend. We use the state's tourism formula for that. We know, first of all, we're filling up every one of our hotels. There are hotels all the way down to Glendale and over in Saukville and places like that that are filling up because so many people are coming in from outside the area. You know, with folks coming from 25 states, and this year we had 5 different countries, it really they need a place to stay. Now, a good many of them also go to campgrounds, but they fill up too. So you know, you're looking at the total amount of money that's brought in. You look at the gas stations and the grocery stores, and you know somebody needs they maybe got a bug bite, or they need some sunscreen. They're stopping at the local Walgreens to you know to get their liniments or whatever. You have folks staying in the hotels, the restaurants, and then just the shops in town. And part of one of the things that is so neat about our community is last year Vogue magazine selected West Bend as one of the 10 cities in the world with the best farmers market. And we have a farmers market every Saturday morning. So we have a lot of folks that will come in, they know about the farmers market, and they'll just go and visit the farmers market. It starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. They'll come and do that for a couple of hours, and then they go out and cash. So, you know, there are a lot of other things that are happening within the community which helps to I think, endear us to the geocaching community.
Well, and the geocachers that actually come out are a vast range of cachers. You have the experienced and you have the noobs. In the press release, you actually tout that 16% reported more than 5,000 finds, but probably more impressive for a mega event is that 27 reported less than 250 finds.
Yeah, 27% are in that range. And if you then go up just slightly, from 251 finds to 500, that's another 10%. From 500 to 1,000 is 13%, and 1,000 to 5,000 is 33%. One of the reasons why I keep track of these numbers is I want to make sure that we continue to have a spread. We don't want just all newbies coming in, nor do we just want all experienced cachers. We want to make sure that we have a wide range, because that means that we're hitting all of the market segments that we're after.
That's really impressive that a third of your geocachers have less than 500 finds.
Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It is, you know, and each year that number has continued to go up. Back in 2013, it was at 13.9. In 2014, it was at 24%. So we're seeing the growth of the sport, and that really excites me, because if everybody was over 5,000, it means that this is a sport. As with any bell curve, you're probably on the downside of the curve. But with the number of people coming into the sport, and those numbers being what they are, it means that geocaching has got a great future.
That's right. Craig, do you have people in your office that you work with who have discovered geocaching through this and have become geocachers themselves?
As a matter of fact, yes. I had one of the young women that well, not quite so young because she has grandchildren, but she was actually our event planner and did about 4 of our cache bashes, and her kids had started getting involved in it, and her grandchildren, and they took her out, and now she's, I wouldn't say seasoned, but certainly an enthusiastic geocacher, and that really is, it's great to see that, because this is, having been a marketing guy for many years, I look at what the demographics are, and this is a sport where the demographics are all over the place. I mean, you have high school kids doing it, college kids, young couples, families with children that they have on in their papoose packs or using a stroller. You have families with teenagers. I mean, teenagers wouldn't get caught dead being seen with their parents anytime, but maybe out geocaching is okay. And empty nesters, and then seniors. And I've spoken to. We have a number of senior facilities in our area, and I've spoken about geocaching there, and I can't tell you how many 80-year-olds wanted to figure out how to use a GPS system, and now that smartphones can do the same thing, they're really getting on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Now, we did talk a little bit about the numbers and such, and A. Clark in the live Q&A asked, did you share the attendance numbers with geocaching.com? They may be interested in that kind of data.
Well, we do. In fact, we have to share it with them if we want to be considered as a mega event. So every year, as we apply for next year's event, I have to fill out a set of forms, and it will include the number of registrations in our logbooks, and we give those numbers to Groundspeak so that they know that we qualify.
Now, I also had another thought as we were talking about this. You've mentioned already that the geocachers in the community come out and place all the caches, and you guys provide some of the logistical support, certainly the cache, but what is the breakdown of how the event actually works and the staffing and everything for someone who might be considering some kind of event with their park system or their chamber?
Well, for the most part, my staff, I have a staff of 4. We and a number of chamber volunteers. These are folks that are chamber ambassadors, or folks that just are really willing to step in and help out us at the chamber. We will be the ones that do most of the check-in and all of the registration. We handle all of that ourselves. We will usually have at least 2 of the caching committee that will be on hand, so that if we have a hotline, we have a special cell phone, and if anybody's out in the woods and they have a problem, or the cache seems to be missing, they can call us, and they'll talk to one of the committee who can say, well, no, it really is there, you're just not looking in the right place, or whatever. But for the most part, we let our cachers. They've done their duty, and all we want them to do then is to go out and have fun on the weekend. So you don't have to be a seasoned geocacher to be able to register somebody, or even at this point to provide downloads, which is one of the things that we do. Is we give anyone that doesn't have the coordinates loaded in their phone or their GPS. We have a building that they can go over. We'll simply plug in, and they'll get all their downloads at one time. That's become far less technical and far easier for newbies to be able to actually do that without having to tie up the caching community.
Yeah, so basically the caching community does all of the work beforehand, placing all the caches, and then the chamber is taking over the actual event and doing the logistics of setting that up, getting the permits or whatever might be needed
Yep.
there, and staffing it as well.
That's exactly right. The bags that we have are backpacks. We have an organization called Threshold, which is for folks that maybe are a little physically or mentally challenged. They do all of the stuffing of those bags for us, and we pay them to do that, so that they have a part in this as well. So I've tried to spread this out throughout the community. The more we spread it out, the more engaged the entire community becomes.
I love that idea. Love it. So when is next year's event? I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to have to put it on my calendar.
Well, you definitely do, and I'm just trying to think of what the date it is. I think it's August. Gee whiz. Why did you ask me that question here? Let me look for
12th and 13th.
12th and 13th. Thank you. Hey.
It was a loaded question.
Yeah, well, I didn't handle it very well, but thank you for. Yes, it is August 12th and 13th.
And it is definitely well worth the trip out there, Chris. I keep wanting to put it on the calendar, and every year something else comes up. But if maybe we both put it on the calendar and both plan to be there, one of us at least will actually make it.
There you go. You never know.
Well, we want you both to come.
Okay.
And we'll at least try to double our chances that way. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Craig, for joining us and giving us all the great information. If people do want to find out more about next year's event, where would they actually go?
Well, they can go to the chamber website, and I'll give you that email address. It's www.wbachamber.org. And if they look on our homepage, they'll see there's a section that they can click on, and that will take them right to all the information. We're in the process really of putting that together, and I'm going to this week. Well, this week's pretty well shot. I guess next week I'm going to be requesting the new dates from Groundspeak, so we'll have that posted within probably the next couple weeks.
Nice.
Excellent.
And what would the cost of this event be for people to come?
Well, it depends on how far they're coming from. It could be as cheap as a tank of gas and a bag of sandwiches, or it could be a night's lodging. We have 3 hotels in West Bend. We have a Country Inn and Suites, a Hampton Inn and Suites, and an American. And price for rooms is probably around $90 to $100 for a room. Not extraordinary, considering summertime hotels are not exactly cheap.
But the event itself is free, correct?
Yes, it is absolutely free. We have never charged for it, never will. And it's, I guess, one of the few events where we actually get something for nothing. You're going to get a backpack just for coming to the event, and who knows, you might walk away with $500.
That's right. Well, you're saving that for me, aren't you?
I am.
Okay, good. We got it done. We got it made.
Well, it's on tape now, right?
Exactly.
Well, and we do probably want to recommend that if you are planning on going, you get those hotel rooms booked. Because when I went, it was I want to say about a month out that I tried getting a room, and they were all booked in the area.
Yeah. We have limited number of rooms within the city. There is a Comfort Inn just south of us, and there's some other motels a little bit north and also to the east of us. But I would highly recommend that your listeners, if they're coming from a distance, they want to get a good hotel and they want to be close to the event. It just makes it a lot more fun than if they have to commute 30 or 40 minutes to get there.
Or in like my case, an hour, and lose all of the cool night caching time and everything.
That's right.
Well, thanks again, Craig, very much for joining us, and we'll certainly try to get out there, and hopefully if any of our GeoGearHeads make it out there next year, they can kind of give us some feedback and let us know how that event went and what they thought of things like the Geo Tour.
Well, I hope that a lot of your listeners will join us. And Daryl, you and Chris, you've got an open invitation. And if you need a hotel room, call me ahead of time, and I'll see what I can do to fix you up.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, we did have a couple of the GeoGearheads write in about events, and we'll start with the mega event titled the Melbourne Event 2015, which is GC5GC J8. I kind of like that one, actually. But that's just over a month away. Bernie H., who's one of our patrons, emailed that he's on the committee for this one. He told us, we decided to keep it simple and organize a 2-day event for the 14th and 15th of November and see what happens from there. As time rolled on and the will attends got posted and the committee organized functions and the statisticians watched the numbers, mega status was granted, and here we are 7 weeks to go. This is obviously from a while ago to the big weekend. So it's going to be a nice big weekend, and if you're able to attend, which is in Melbourne, check it out and say hi to Bernie for us. Of course, we'll drop a link in the show notes to that cache page. But if you do make it out there, let us know how that one turned out.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl, do you want a carpool?
Yeah, I'd love to, but I don't have a car that's capable of driving that fast so that we can skim over the water.
Oh. Okay. Well, mine definitely won't. But that's Australia is on my bucket list. I got to go there. And now that I'm a geocacher, or it's been on my bucket list since before I was a geocacher, so it's ranked up there a little higher. Now, another event came in from Dudley Grunt, who, by the way, is going to be on next week's show. He emailed about the Geocaching Symposium 2015. That's GC62CD6. And it's hosted by the APL Cachers on November 14th at the Johns Hopkins University of Applied Physics Laboratory. That's what APL stands for. It's a series of sessions that are still being developed as of this afternoon. But look for caching with the iPhone with Alzeris, smartphone caching on the Android platform with Prodigious One, how to create a Where I Go cache with Spike P. Now that's one I want to go to. Advanced caching using Project GC with Great Caches, and we all love Project GC here. I'm just letting you know. Creative cache inspiration with one of the 2-time GeoGearhead guests, WV Tim. Dudley Grunt wrote that this reminds him of CacherCon 2011. That was an event hosted by Daryl, I believe, your crew.
It was.
He said about his experience at that event, I found that one well worth having driven out of Maryland for CacherCon. So, Daryl, will you be driving into Maryland for this one?
I'd really love to, but not this year. But we will be talking, like you mentioned before, with both Dudley Grunt and Native Texan next week on GeoGearHeads 197 about caching solo. So, for a chance at a prize from coinsandpins.com, we'd like you to email your tip or story about caching solo. Email it to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com with the subject question 197. In the body, drop your best tip for geocaching by yourself or a story about something that you might have done wrong or right on a solo caching trip. Then make sure to include your geocaching.com screen name and have it to us by 9 p.m. Eastern. That was actually going to be 8 Central because that's for our guest. 6 p.m. Pacific on October 7th to be included in that random drawing for a prize from coinsandpins.com. Good luck, and we look forward to reading your Question 197 emails. I love catching all those stories, especially the ones like, gee, I wish someone were with me so that they could have gotten a picture of me doing that silly thing. But those need to be addressed to us at geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Of course, we'll share a few of those during next week's show.
Daryl, when I go caching solo, I always need to remember to bring a towel with me. That's all I'm going to say. So, next week, as we just mentioned, we're doing episode 197, that's Caching Solo with Dudley Grunt and Native Texan. October 15th, that's just 2 weeks away, we're doing Randomized 38, and boy, that's a lot of Roman numerals. We're going to have the GC doc on that one. October 22nd is GPSR Picking with Jim Sire and DeBear. If I'm not mistaken, isn't that finding old GPSRs like in barns? Anyway, that's a different kind of picking. October 29th, this is GeoGearHeads number 200. We're talking road caching, the sixth time we've talked road caching, with Scott Burks and Shorty Knits. November 5th, for episode 201, we're talking intercaching with Chilihead.
So check the Caching Maniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Caching Maniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Caching Maniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Christoph Lauer and Daryl Wanberg. The show is copyright 2015 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with a Caching Maniac.